Okay, so welcome to day 8. And I'm sorry, this is day 9. Today's about surrender, and this really ties in with what we talked about yesterday as far as desperation. A couple months ago, actually last summer in 2012, I realized that I was in a place very much like a bug under a glass. Like if you see a little bug under a glass, and it's just this glass is this bug is just walking in circles underneath this glass, unable to escape. And the circumstances and the events in my life led me to that place, and ultimately it was God who was doing that to me, which seems like kind of a cruel thing. Um, but it was all to get me to surrender once and for all. See, for I don't know, 10 years, I've been helping God. I've been doing things for God, and I've wanted to. Um, I had this picture about how things should be. Like, okay, well, I got to go do this, and I've got to go make some money so that I can be independent, so that I can go help God, and I've got to look a certain way, and talk a certain way, so that I can go into where God's sending me, and it became this obsession for me, especially the I need to make money. So I've started all these businesses and just watch things come and go and not succeed. And, I've learned a ton. But in the end, I got to this point last summer where it was just very evident that nothing I was doing was going to work and hadn't worked. God graciously allowed the different things in my life. He allowed me to learn, He allowed me to grow. But in the end, He positioned me in such a place where I couldn't do anything. Like, I just kept looking at my hands. I was like, why can't anything good come from these hands? Why do I keep making a mess? Why am I so powerless? And it was God Himself taking that power away from me, all to get me to this place where I just surrendered. I just put my hands up and said, I can't do this. I'm unable. You have taken away my power. It was one of those moments where I saw God for who He was, who He is, and which meant I saw myself for who I am, and my own limitations and my own wickedness and my own, just the thoughts in my head, my own inabilities just came out, and there was a moment where it was like, okay, I can't do this anymore, and it's one of those moments where it becomes real. We hear all of these different we sing about them in worship songs and just all these different things that we attribute to God, but like there's times where He makes Himself extremely real, and those words become real, like Lord. A Lord is somebody who is over you, and you're there to do that Lord's will and that Lord's bidding. And so God will get us to the point where we have no choice. And the thing is, we're so stubborn. I know I am, that we keep just banging our heads against, this rock that we don't want to we want to keep going, and so God's the whole time calling us to surrender, but we're like, no, 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 we can do this. No, 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 we can. We just have to try a different way, or we need to just try harder. And for me, I was just exhausted of trying harder. I was exhausted of trying a different way, and God was gracious enough to allow me to see that it's not how hard I try, it's not how many things that I do, it's Him. And it's all to get you to this point where you understand, if there's going to be anything that comes of this, if there's going to be anything that my life, that happens in my life, it's going to be because of God. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the gospel. Because God wants to make much of Himself, but He can't do it in somebody who's not surrendered. He's not willing to do it. He can. He's done it. You see it in the Bible. But He's looking for people who have come to a place of surrender, who are just, just like you, just like laying on the ground going, whatever you want to do with me, have your way. And so, He wants you to know who's in charge. And He wants you to know that so that He can orchestrate His plans in only the way that He can do it. Today's about surrender. Today is about just coming to that place of um, just stopping. Just stop. Like if you're exhausted by your own efforts, if you've tried so many different ways to do something, like if you're fixated on one thing, and like if this one thing was just fixed in my life, I could do this. There's times where God takes away your power. There's times where, He just makes you absolutely and utterly incapable. Um, and that's really one of the things this challenge is about, and we've been talking about it. And when you get to that place of surrender, you understand your desperation, like we talked about yesterday. So, again, what are you surrendering today? What are you surrendering in this time? And the more that you surrender it, the more that you turn it over, the more that you give it up, the more that you just cry out, I'm incapable. I feel like a bug underneath a glass, and God, I can't do this. And God will be like, I know, you're not meant to. I'm meant to do it. I've always been meant to do it. But you've tried to take ownership to it. Um, Surrender. It's the best thing you can do. It goes against all logic that we're taught, um, you know, but that's why the gospel's so upside down, and that's why it's so powerful. Surrender. What are you going to surrender today? How are you going to surrender today? In what ways are you going to surrender today? In what ways are you just going to put yourself out there and say, I'm at the end. I can't do this, and I need to trust you, God. So meditate on that today. Surrender is the word for today.